Hey guys, in today's video I'm going to show you how to replace the valve cover gasket on this Mercedes with a V6 engine. You can find this engine on a C-Class or a A-Class. The process is going to be similar also on V8 engines. This is the M112 engine made between 1998 and 2006. So let's take out the cover and check for the oil leaks. Now if you have a closer look on bank 1, there are clear oil leaks around here. The oil is literally dripping out. So on one bank we've got two gaskets actually. This is the small one and it's kind of hard to find a gasket for this. And then you've got the big one, which is on the main valve cover. On bank 2 the situation is a little bit better, however there are still a lot of oil leaks around, and this is not from the oil cap. You've got this spot here, you can see this is a fresh oil leak and it comes from this gasket. On this spot here there are plenty of oil leaks. Back here it looks good. This is how it should look like. You can see this spot here. There is nothing wet in here. Everything is dry and sealed. And I don't know about down there because I cannot see it yet. But anyway, this engine needs new valve cover gaskets. So this small cover on top of the valve cover gasket is made to ventilate the hot gases which are produced inside the combustion chamber. These hot gases will escape by the piston rings. They will go into the crankcase and they need to be evacuated somewhere. This is the point where they get separated from the oil. Since they come out with a lot of pressure, the oil is splashing around here while the valves are moving. So this small cover is meant to separate the oil from the air, and then only the air in theory should travel back inside the intake manifold and be recirculated. In that way the engine will run a little bit more efficient and it will pollute less. So it looks like we've got a job to do. As I said, for this small gasket, which as you can see it's ripped off, you might want to use one of these gasket maker. This is for high temperature. As you can see, the texture of this gasket maker, it's quite hard and stable. So if the gasket on this small cover looks good, then don't remove these small screws. You're going to be interested only in these big bolts in order to take out the main cover. So before doing that, we gotta mark the coil packs on each cylinder. Each coil pack is responsible for 2 spark plugs on each cylinder. This is for cylinder number 1, 2 and 3, 4, 5 and 6. So let's start with bank 1. Unplug the connectors. And now on the first spark plug wire on each coil pack, I'm going to put a tape. Now in order to unplug the spark plug wires, you're gonna need some sort of long plier to catch the wire like this and take it out. Okay, we gotta disconnect the coil packs from the valve cover. For that you're gonna need a T30. Like for example, I've got this bit holder. If it goes all the way in, it's not gonna be enough to grab on the bolt. So what you're gonna do, you need this bit to be a little bit out like this. And for that I'm gonna use a little bit of paper to keep the bit on the surface a lot more. Now I can have full grip on the bolt there. So you need to be prepared with multiple tools for this job, because you never know. Okay. Okay, take out the bolt first. Let the coil pack in there. And let's pry out the spark plug wires. And let's try not to damage my hand. Okay. Okay, so it looks like I have to remove this coil pack too in order to get access to the last spark plug from the cylinder 2. Yeah, I've got a problem here. It does not allow me to put my bit in there because somebody used the wrong bit, the one which has a hole. So I'm gonna try to remove that thing from there. Somebody used the T30 which has a hole like this one instead of this one. With this pick you can take it out. Luckily somebody wanted to replace this coil pack or replace the spark plugs or something like that, and they couldn't do that. Which means that in the future, if for example we've got a problem with the ignition, we have a clue on this cylinder number 3, we might have a problem, or even on all the bank, because if you cannot remove this, you can see it's pretty impossible to remove the spark plugs as well. But that's gonna be for another video, so let's keep going. It looks like I have not been removed for a long time from here. I'll try to spray some silicone in there. So in these situations when the spark plug wire is very stuck, you're gonna need one of these pliers, but this has to be straight because otherwise you cannot position it in here. It looks like the silicone spray helped. This one came out. Okay, so it came out as well. And we've got this one out as well. They are almost rusted in there. So you can see now the importance of lubricating this with silicone paste before installing them on the coil pack. Alright, so from this point this job is gonna be simple. We just have to detach the oil filter dipstick and the transmission fluid dipstick. Also the breathing hose. It has to come out by hand. If not, use your picks. Just like this. So on this engine, this hose, it's still reusable. You can check for its flexibility and it's still there. There are no major cracks. And for the oil dipstick and for all the bolts which holds the main cover on, you're gonna need the E10, or you can use as well a 8mm. It will do exactly the same job. However, the E10 is gonna be a lot more secure and safe, especially if these bolts are rusted or worn up or already rounded up by the previous owners. And even though it sounds strange, I recommend that you bend a little bit this dipstick for the transmission and you don't reconnect it back, because you don't want to bend it back and forward, because you need that extra space when you install the new gasket on. You don't want to wiggle the valve cover in there, so you need this space in order to put it in there properly. Right, all the bolts are removed. I place them in position here. You'll notice that the long ones will be on top of this small extra cover. Now let's pry out the cover. We're gonna find a point like here, just like this, and find a place where you don't damage the surface where the gasket will sit, because that can be a future point where the oil will leak. Okay, so now you can see why I told you have to bend that automatic transmission dipstick. This oil didn't come out when I removed the gasket now. It is there for a long time. Now on the cover you can see this hole through which the gases will travel inside this small cover on the other side. And you can see actually now on the old gasket the point where the oil comes on this surface. You don't want to see oil in here where the gasket sits, and there are some points where you can see it. Okay, you see here especially, and you can see, for example, on this point here there is no oil. You can see here there is no oil, since this is the front part where we knew that there is no oil leak. So now with the T25 let's remove these two screws. Okay, so here it comes. Okay, so you can see there is a lot of sludge in here and the gasket is actually broken. You can see it falls apart. So let's go ahead and remove the old gasket. I think was a gasket maker. This is not a proper gasket in here because it's not even. Okay, so after a very long time the valve cover is ready to get its gasket on, the small cover as well. I remove all the old gasket. It's very important to take your time. It's all about the preparation. You gotta make a clean surface for the new gasket to catch on. So just place it on these channels and then place your cover in there. This can be challenging because you've got a lot of things in here. Insert the bolts. Alright, so now it's time to put the gasket maker on this small cover. Make sure that the gasket maker can hold temperatures above 100 degrees Celsius. You just need to fill up this channel. It's not required that much. Okay, so now we have to let it dry for a couple of minutes, to the point when you touch it, it will not stick on your finger, but it will still be flexible and it will mold on the surface there. Usually it will take like 10 to 15 minutes. So now meanwhile, we can begin to install back the coil packs. Before installing the spark plug wires, I'm going to put some silicone grease in here. So they have to click in there. You can try with a 15 millimeter. Okay. If you want, you can use some thread locker on the threads. My situation, the bolt have already some thread locker, so I'm gonna reuse that for the moment, since I'm planning to do some other job on this engine. Now we are done with bank 1, the coil packs are on, the gasket is on. Let's reconnect this breathing hose back, just press it in there. And now it's time to do the same thing on bank 2. I'm gonna skip through the process, since it's the same process like I did on bank 1. You just have to take it off from this point. You've got 2 PCV hoses here. It's all about unbolting from here. Okay, so finally the gasket is on. I installed the bolts, everything is in position, the PCV hoses are on. So I'm going to torque it down to 15 foot-pounds. So you need to have all the lengths of adapters. Okay, so from this point you can start the engine, let it run to the operating temperature and look for oil leaks. Inspect the gaskets around. The best is to do this after you drove the car for, let's say, 100 kilometers or so. And one more thing, a lot of people ask me about these PCV hoses. As you can see, this one is cracked, but I use a hose clamp and now it's very secure in here. You can see here the crack. This one looks okay, it's still reusable, but this one was leaking and the previous owner put some tape in here, which is useless. So if your PCV hose is still okay, but it's just a little bit cracked, this will do the trick. But anyway, an inspection will confirm that this fix will be good. Okay guys, so that's how you change the valve cover gasket on this car. As usually, if you like this video, give it a thumbs up. Go ahead and check out the other videos I made about this S-Class. If you have any questions or you just want to let me know what would you like to see in the future, leave a comment down below. And until next time, drive safe so I can see you in the next video.